Hey guys, welcome to Living It Up Raw. Welcome to our second part of the long-term review of the Ola S1 Pro after the OS3 update. To start with, you now have three different display options which also have their own distinct sounds, which Ola calls as moods. You also have something which is known as a party mode, which essentially gives you a light show of sorts in conjunction with whatever music that you're playing. You also have something which is very handy, which is known as a vacation mode, which essentially prevents the Ola from completely draining out. So if you're going to be out of town, not using the Ola for quite a few weeks, just put it in vacation mode and then you can be assured that when you come back and you turn this on, it will come on. Now it also comes with Wi-Fi connectivity, which I think would be great. So especially if you're in a place where the navigation on this is not working that great, you can actually use your phone, use the hotspot to connect to the Ola and use the navigation through that, while at the same time being connected for all the incoming calls and everything via Bluetooth. So now, in conjunction with a feature which I've always loved on the Ola, which is you don't need a key for it, you just put in the pin and you're good to go. They have also given something which is known as special access. So if you want someone else to also be using your Ola, you can give them their own code. You can set up their own profile on the Ola app, and yeah, they will have their dedicated pin which they can then use to use the Ola. And then to top that, they have done something which is known as a proximity unlock and lock, which essentially sees the Ola. The way it's supposed to work is, as long as your app is connected to the Ola, and when you get closer and senses that you're close to the scooter, it will automatically unlock, and once you move away from it, it will lock on its own. Which then brings us to the part which I had mentioned and hoped for when we did part number 1, which is regen. So now Ola have listened to us and they have given us 3 different levels of regen depending on what you prefer. You have one mode where you have minimum regen, a second mode where it's how it used to be, the default version, and then you have one which is the high regen mode, which you can completely notice. So as soon as you get off your throttle, you can feel the vehicle slowing down a lot quicker, which feels a lot like engine braking on your conventional ICE engines. And the other benefit of that is that it also helps the battery recharge every time you're braking or you're letting go of the throttle, which I think is very cool. Especially when you're riding up on the slopes, this, especially with the delay in the throttle, had the tendency of rolling back. Now Ola have given you a way to get around that problem by using the hill hold control, where you just have to hold on to the brakes for about 5 seconds and it comes on. And then when you again just tap the brakes or start accelerating, the hill hold control is switched off. And while I appreciate these updates, there are still some things which I wished for which still haven't rolled out as part of the OS3 update, starting with the essential information. The only way you can access it, like stuff like the range which you have in all the different modes or the temperature that the batteries are running on, that can only be accessed when you have come to a stop. Yeah, you cannot access it on the go. It also doesn't get its dedicated trip meter, which means the trip meter resets every single time after every single ride of yours. And if you're someone like me, a journalist who's trying to accurately track the battery percentage and the amount of kilometers that you have ridden, it becomes very difficult to track. The delay in the throttle response is still very much there. Yes, they have given you the hill hold control, which definitely helps on incline so that the Ola doesn't roll back. But then it's only effective, especially when you're riding with a pillion, if you're riding in the sport or the hyper mode. If you're riding in the normal mode, the delay will still see the scooter roll back a little bit. I'm also still not a fan of how the power cuts when you're on the brakes, which makes taking U-turns and everything still a much more concentrated affair than it ought to be. Now with the OS 3 updates, this scooter has become quite glitchy. The system has become quite laggy. A lot of times I've been stranded where no matter what I did, no matter how much I tried to reboot the system, it would not come on. But then, yes, Ola, the service center, were extremely prompt. They picked up the scooter, they fixed it and they sent it back. But even after that, there have been another 2 or 3 occasions where where the entire system completely froze and I had to reboot it a couple of times to get it to go again. There have been other problems, right, where they have been proactive, where they have also replaced my rear shock, even though it was perfectly fine, and now they've also changed the suspension arm. But I personally have never really had that problem. So yes, I really like their proactive approach on that front. But it's these technical issues which can get quite annoying because it's not the first time they have rolled out an update. They need to have a much better, a thorough testing period where they test out all of these things and they work as well as it should. Because even now, the proximity feature that they have on this scooter, I've never been able to get it to work properly. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This is the only thing which is keeping me now from going ahead and purchasing the Ola, because I would still like to give Ola some time to really iron out all of these chinks in the armor, really ensure that every possible update is clean and gives you a much better experience than what it's offering right now. Because as a scooter, I still believe this has the most potential. This is still the roomiest, the most comfortable in terms of suspension, has the biggest luggage space, has the performance, has the range when you ride it the way it's supposed to be ridden. So it's a really good product, which I would still pick over all the other EVs in the market. But I'll still hold on to my money until Ola gets their act together and make sure that all of these updates are as clean, as smooth as they ought to be.